Sumit did not just make a bad financial decision. He quietly turned his family's entire history into emergency cash, signed away the cafe his father built, and expected everyone to understand once he explained that he did it for Jenny. By the time his father arrived, workers were already measuring the property. The family sign was coming down. Strangers were talking about renovations, as if the place had never belonged to anyone else. And Sumit was standing there with the expression of a man who had convinced himself that love would somehow cancel out the paperwork. But that is what makes this so much bigger than a simple husband sacrifices everything for his wife story. Jenny never asked him to sell the cafe. His parents had no idea she needed treatment. The buyer knew Sumit was desperate and used that desperation to push through a terrible deal. Someone close to the family may have helped arrange the entire thing. And when the money is finally counted, the numbers do not even match. So no. The real question is not whether Sumit loves Jenny. He clearly does. The real question is why his version of love keeps arriving as a secret that everyone else has to pay for. Why does every attempt to protect Jenny leave her carrying more guilt? Why does every effort to avoid conflict create a much bigger conflict? And how many times can one family survive Sumit saying, "I was going to tell you," after the damage is already done? Because this time, he may not have only risked the cafe. He may have exposed the deepest problem in his marriage, the weakest point in his family, and one more financial secret that could destroy everything they thought they had saved. 48 hours earlier, Jenny is quiet in a way that immediately feels wrong. She is tired, distracted, and trying too hard to act normal. And on reality television, when someone keeps insisting that everything is fine while hiding paperwork in a bag, that is usually the universe politely announcing that everything is absolutely not fine. Sumit notices the change, but Jenny keeps brushing him off. She says she needs rest. She avoids eye contact. She changes the subject. Eventually, he finds a treatment estimate she has not signed. The amount is far beyond what they have saved, and the deposit is due quickly. The event itself is simple. Jenny needs help. The emotional problem is not. Jenny did not hide the paperwork because she did not trust Sumit to care. She hid it because she knows exactly how he cares. Sumit does not respond to fear with calm planning. He responds by making a giant promise, finding the most dramatic possible solution, and worrying about consequences only after he has created 3 new emergencies. That is why Jenny's fear is not only about the treatment. She is afraid of becoming another battle Sumit has to fight against his family. She knows that if he sacrifices something major, the family will not blame only him. They will blame her. She has spent years being treated like the reason Sumit disappoints his parents, and she can already see how the story would be told. Sumit loses something. Jenny benefits. Therefore, Jenny must have demanded it. So Jenny suggests returning to America for treatment. To her, it is a practical option. To Sumit, it sounds like a threat to the marriage. He does not hear, "I may have access to another path." He hears, "I am preparing to leave you." That difference explains how they handle fear. Jenny thinks in terms of survival. Sumit thinks in terms of proof. She wants to reduce the damage. He wants to prove he will not fail her. That sounds romantic until you realize Jenny is not asking to be chosen this way. Sumit is trying to rewrite his own history as the man who finally acted without fear, and that need becomes louder than Jenny's actual wishes. And then we get to the cafe. For Sumit, the cafe is a financial asset. It has a market value, ownership papers, and a legal share attached to his name. For his father, it represents years of work. For his mother, it represents security, pride, and proof that the family survived public embarrassment without losing its identity. The cafe is not just where they make money. It is where their sacrifices became visible. That is why the private sale feels like betrayal before anyone knows the reason. Sumit is treating a shared symbol like emergency cash. He may have legal rights, but emotional ownership does not divide as neatly as a contract. He believes helping grow the cafe earned him authority. His parents believe his share exists because they trusted him. Secrecy destroys any chance of compromise. That is Sumit's recurring pattern. He lies because he fears the moment when 2 people want different things from him. He delays, hides information, and calls it peacekeeping until the truth arrives with documents and emotional property damage. Sumit meets the buyer after closing time. The buyer sees desperation almost immediately and offers less than the cafe is worth. That detail matters because Sumit is not negotiating with a clear head. He is negotiating with Jenny's treatment attached to every number. He is not asking, "Is this a fair price?" He is asking, Will this be enough to stop me from losing her? The buyer gives him until the next morning. That is not generosity. That is pressure. A short deadline keeps Sumit from speaking to his father, comparing offers, checking the contract, or asking why the buyer seems so comfortable discussing a family property in secret. Urgency is useful when someone wants a quick signature and fewer questions. Sumit looks at the family photographs behind the counter and nearly walks away. For 1 second, he understands what he is actually selling. Not furniture, not equipment, not square footage. He is selling the place where his father expected the family name to continue. Then, the buyer hints that another family member may already know about the deal. That changes the entire mood. Now the sale does not feel like a private opportunity Sumit discovered. It feels like something arranged around him. Someone knows he is desperate. Someone knows which documents matter. Someone knows he will move fast if Jenny is involved. Sumit leaves believing the meeting is secret, but someone photographs him. The picture reaches his mother, and her reaction is immediate. She does not ask what is happening. She decides Jenny is behind it. This exposes the family's bias. Jenny becomes the suspect before she enters the conversation because blaming the outsider is easier than admitting Sumit is a grown man making his own decisions. His mother calls an emergency meeting at the cafe. Jenny stays home, unaware that she is already being blamed for a plan she tried to stop. Sumit arrives expecting dinner, sees the photograph on the table, and immediately starts lying. He claims he was discussing renovations. His father asks the obvious questions. What renovations? Who is paying? Which contractor? Sumit has no answers. A relative reveals that property documents were requested recently. Sumit becomes defensive and accuses the family of watching him. When people feel exposed, they often attack how the truth was discovered instead of addressing it. The family may be intrusive, but that does not make the renovation story honest. Now, the crisis is about trust as much as money. Sumit's biggest mistake is not wanting to save Jenny. It is believing that one more lie will protect everyone from the truth. He has delayed conflict so many times that delay now feels like a strategy. It is not. Delay only gives conflict time to grow teeth. His father finally asks the question Sumit has been avoiding. Has the cafe already been sold? Sumit does not answer directly, but his face gives away enough. After the meeting, the treatment center sends an urgent message. The deposit is due. This is Sumit's final chance to stop, tell Jenny, speak to his family, and admit that the situation is beyond him. Instead, he signs the agreement. The buyer transfers only the first payment. Sumit sends the deposit. And for a few minutes, he feels relief. That relief explains why reckless decisions feel tempting. The immediate problem looks solved before the consequences arrive. Sumit tells himself the family can be handled later, the contract explained later, and Jenny convinced later. Later is doing a lot of work in his life. Then, the treatment center contacts Jenny directly and thanks her for the payment. She confronts Sumit, sees the cafe contract on his phone, and reacts with horror instead of gratitude. That confuses him because he expected sacrifice to create closeness. Instead, it creates another trust fracture. Jenny makes the strongest point in the entire situation. Love should not require destroying every other relationship. Sumit believes sacrifice proves devotion. Jenny understands that sacrifice without consent can become control. He may be acting from love, but he is still deciding what risks she must carry. He is choosing the financial consequences, the family fallout, and the guilt attached to her treatment without allowing her to say no. That is the contradiction. Sumit gets to feel like the man who saved his wife. Jenny becomes the woman whose treatment cost his parents their future. Jenny says she will tell his parents herself, but before she gets the chance, the buyer's workers arrive at the cafe. Sumit's father learns from strangers that the business no longer belongs to him. There is no respectful conversation. No warning. No private handover. The truth arrives publicly, carrying measuring tape. When Sumit and Jenny show up, every eye turns toward Jenny. His mother asks what she has taken from the family this time. That accusation shows how deeply resentment has shaped the family's interpretation of events. Jenny is not seen as a woman facing a frightening treatment. She is seen as a force that consumes. Then Jenny shocks everyone by saying she begged Sumit not to sell. That breaks the family's favorite narrative. They may still dislike Jenny, but they can no longer honestly claim she ordered Sumit to sign. Sumit finally admits he acted alone and shows the treatment payment. His father is caught between anger and concern. His mother struggles to accept the explanation because accepting it means surrendering the easiest target. Then someone notices the numbers do not match. For a moment, the family may think Sumit kept part of the money. The truth is almost worse. The buyer paid only a portion of the price. The remaining amount will come after the family leaves the property. Sumit accepted an undervalued, rushed deal, and now his parents must surrender the cafe before receiving the full payment. Now the sacrifice looks more like panic with a signature. His mother sees the low price as both bad business and emotional betrayal. To her, the amount proves how little Sumit valued what the cafe represented. Jenny, meanwhile, realizes her treatment has been funded by a deal that could financially ruin everyone. That guilt is exactly what she feared when she hid the estimate. Sumit believed paying the deposit would make her feel safe. Instead, it makes her feel responsible for a family collapse she tried to prevent. The father finds a possible clause that could challenge the sale because the ownership documents are complicated. But cancellation requires returning the deposit immediately. The treatment center already has the money. Now the family appears to face a brutal choice. Save the cafe or continue Jenny's treatment. But this is not a fair choice. It exists because Sumit made several earlier decisions alone. By the time everyone else gets a voice, the reasonable options are gone. Jenny says she will cancel the treatment. Sumit refuses and tells his family he would make the same choice again. Some viewers would probably see that as devotion. Others would hear something much more alarming. Sumit is saying that even after seeing the financial damage, the humiliation, and the loss of trust, he still believes the decision was morally correct. He may regret the lie, but he does not regret deciding for everyone. That is exactly what terrifies his parents. Jenny comes first, and everything else becomes negotiable. Jenny quietly packs a suitcase and decides to return to America. She believes her absence will help Sumit reverse the sale and repair the relationship with his parents. She leaves a message saying she refuses to be the reason he loses their future. It looks selfless, but it repeats the pattern. Sumit decided for Jenny. Now Jenny decides for Sumit. Both call it protection. Neither is communicating. Sumit finds the message and races to the airport while his father begins the cancellation process. That creates the most revealing choice in the story. If Sumit stops Jenny, the cafe may be lost. If he lets her leave, the marriage may not survive. But the deeper problem is not that Sumit must choose between his wife and his family. The deeper problem is that he waits until every disagreement becomes an emergency and then acts surprised when every option hurts someone. At the airport, Sumit tells Jenny the sale was his choice. Jenny responds that his choices always become her punishment. That is the line Sumit needed to hear. He acts. His family reacts. Jenny carries the blame. He gets to be impulsive. She gets to become the symbol of what was lost. Even when she says no, the consequences still attach themselves to her name. Sumit finally admits he acted from fear, not courage. That is the first real sign of growth because he stops describing recklessness as romance. He admits that he was terrified of losing Jenny and tried to control the outcome before anyone could challenge him. Jenny refuses to return unless he faces his family honestly. She is not asking him to choose her. She is asking him to stop hiding behind her. Then his father calls with a new offer. The buyer will cancel the sale if Sumit returns the deposit plus a heavy penalty. Otherwise, the family can continue operating the cafe as employees. The offer turns ownership into humiliation. His father considers it because income matters. His mother rejects it because dignity matters. Financial pressure forces them to choose which pain they can survive. Jenny offers her remaining savings. That changes the emotional balance immediately. The woman accused of taking the cafe becomes the first person willing to use her own money to save it. She meets the family without asking Sumit to speak for her. She says she will contribute everything she can, but only if Sumit takes full responsibility. That condition matters. Jenny is not buying acceptance. She is refusing to let her help become another excuse for Sumit. His father says pride will not pay employees or restore the business. Sumit apologizes for lying, hiding the crisis, and making decisions for everyone. He does not apologize for wanting Jenny to receive treatment. That is the correct distinction. A meaningful apology does not require pretending the concern was wrong. It requires admitting the method caused harm. For the first time, Sumit defends Jenny without attacking his family. He does not call his mother controlling. He does not accuse his father of refusing to understand love. He simply says Jenny did not ask for the sale and should not carry the blame. That is more mature than any dramatic declaration because it separates accountability from loyalty. Then another relative reveals who sent the anonymous photograph. The picture came from a family member who wanted the cafe sold and had secretly connected Sumit with the buyer. That person expected to receive money after the sale. The low offer and short deadline were not random. They were part of a plan. The twist does not erase Sumit's responsibility. He signed, lied, and excluded everyone. But his desperation was deliberately used. The family focused so heavily on Jenny that they missed the person inside their own circle with a financial motive. And I can already see the audience dividing here. Some fans would probably defend Sumit and say he was manipulated while trying to save his wife. A different section of viewers would argue that manipulation only worked because Sumit refuses to ask for help until the damage is done. And many people would likely point out that this family keeps turning private fear into public warfare because honest conversations apparently feel more dangerous than legal penalties. The most interesting debate would be whether Sumit's decision was romantic or controlling. Selling something valuable for treatment looks like love, but Jenny never consented to the financial risk, family fallout, or guilt. Expensive gestures are not automatically healthy. If Jenny says no and Sumit does it anyway, the gesture is also about the man Sumit wants to believe he is. The father uses evidence of manipulation to challenge the contract. Jenny provides messages showing Sumit was pressured to sign quickly. Sumit confronts the buyer and refuses the employee arrangement. The buyer threatens to keep the deposit and take the property. For once, the family stops fighting each other long enough to recognize the external threat. They agree to sell a smaller asset and combine their savings. Jenny insists her treatment cannot continue at the cost of everyone's survival. They raise almost enough money, but they remain short. Then Sumit's mother brings out jewelry she has saved for years. She offers it to cover the final amount, but she makes one thing clear. This is not approval. It is survival. Jenny promises to repay her, and Sumit's mother says survival comes first and forgiveness comes later. It is an honest compromise. Cooperation does not require instant forgiveness. They can protect Jenny, save the cafe, and remain angry with Sumit. The buyer signs the cancellation papers. Sumit's father takes back the keys. Jenny prepares for treatment, and Sumit stays beside her. His mother watches them leave without offering a blessing. That silence matters. The emergency is over, but the conflict is not. Then she finds another page from the original agreement. It suggests Sumit use the cafe as security for an additional private loan. Suddenly, canceling the sale may not have saved the business at all. Sumit may have solved one secret by hiding another. The reveal confirms the deepest pattern. Sumit believes he can manage unbearable problems alone, reveal the truth later, and control everyone's reaction. He cannot. Every secret limits the choices available to everyone around him. Long term, the marriage and the family would be left in a very fragile place. Jenny may receive treatment, but she now knows Sumit can override her wishes when he is scared. His parents may keep the cafe, but they know he was willing to risk their security without warning. Sumit may finally admit he acted from fear, but the hidden loan suggests the old pattern is still alive. The next conflict would likely focus on whether anyone trusts Sumit with money or major decisions. His father may demand control of the cafe. His mother may treat Jenny's repayment as a test. Jenny may separate her finances because fixing immediate damage does not erase the decision that caused it. The biggest unresolved question is not whether Sumit loves Jenny enough. He clearly does. It is whether he can learn that love without honesty is not protection. It is pressure. The cafe may still be standing. Jenny may still have a path to treatment. The family may have survived the first explosion. But if that hidden loan is real, then every sacrifice they just made may have purchased nothing more than a little extra time. So where should the responsibility land?